Good afternoon, everyone. This is Fignoli Smith from IronFX, and I'm here with the IronFX research team having a discussion about the latest Brexit update, which have rattled the market in the past few days, and how this troubling issue could affect the pound. Let's start with my colleagues next to me, Angelo Zitis and Peter Youssef. Angelo, what do you think we stand now with Brexit? What are the latest updates in the past 2 weeks?
PM Theresa May was in Strasbourg on Monday, trying to make some last-minute changes to the Brexit deal, something she has achieved, something we're going to get into a little more detail as we go on. Cable has gained some 300 pips upon the news, positive for the pound. Theresa May had put some pressure on the EU in the previous weeks, saying that it's in the best interest for the European Union to find an orderly Brexit deal for the UK. Now she has new updated deal to present to Parliament today. And today's vote is of crucial importance, and it will be decisive to the next weeks for Brexit developments.
Peter, what is going to happen in the next few days, and what are the possible outcomes?
Well, tonight, as Angus has mentioned, the UK Parliament is to vote on the revised Theresa May's Brexit deal. Our base scenario remains that the plan will most probably be rejected. However, that depends heavily on the alterations which Theresa May had achieved in yesterday's negotiations with EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, and which will be announced today. It's going to be of special significance what the actual impact will be on the UK Parliament. We could see some hard Brexiteers changing sides, as well as some Labour Party rebels supporting the deal. Should the revised deal be accepted, then the UK will proceed with an orderly Brexit, which will have to be ratified by the 21st and 22nd of March at an EU summit in Brussels. On the other hand, should the plan be rejected once again, then we would be having a second vote, that's on tomorrow on Wednesday, the 13th, where practically the UK Parliament is to decide whether it's going to leave the EU without a deal or with a deal. Now, should the no-deal scenario be rejected this time, we have a third vote that's going to happen on Thursday, the 14th, where practically the UK Parliament will be deciding whether to ask for an extension of the Brexit date, which is currently the 29th of March, practically prolonging Article 50. Now, should that delay be approved by the UK Parliament, it still has to be ratified by an EU summit on the 21st and 2nd of March.
The old girl's been traveling around, going everywhere, asking, begging, pleading, She's put a lot of miles on her shoes, I heard this joke that she's going around, a member of her team is a shoe repair guy. She's put so many miles. What do you think she's trying to achieve here?
She was working towards achieving binding assurances that Britain will not be trapped in a backstop, something she has achieved. Now she has a new agreement. Now, today she's trying to sway British lawmakers to get their vote. She has reduced the size of a defeat, even though it's still possible. It's reduced possibilities, but she's also reduced the possibilities of a hard Brexit, which is super good and is positive. And today, it could be the last chance for Theresa May to get the agreement through.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's a 70-30 chance you have there? Counter punches and
it all comes down to the last minutes, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be something which depends how powerful the changes actually are.
Yeah. hair trigger negotiation commitments and that sort of thing. What has been the position of the hard Brexiter recently, and have there been any changes? What's going on there?
Actually, that's a quite interesting question, because hard Brexiteers is the main part of the UK Parliament which Theresa May is trying to sway in her favor. Now, I think that pressure was starting to build up for hard Brexiteers from Sunday when Jeremy Hunt, that's the UK's Foreign Secretary, stated that should Theresa May's plan be rejected once again, that could practically reverse the Brexit as a whole. So that added pressure to hard Brexiteers. Especially after yesterday's developments, though, we could see even more pressure being exercised on hard Brexiteers, as Theresa May's plan, or at least Theresa May has stated that her plan has now some time frames and some legally binding assurances for the temporary nature of the Irish backstop, which was the main issue which hard Brexiteers had as an advantage. I think that the latest developments have been a game changer for the vote tonight. But we would also like to see what the UK's General Attorney, Geoffrey Cox's opinion will have, whether he's going to be practically backing the deal or not. Should he back the deal, then practically he would subtract substantial argumentation from hard Brexiteers, and vice versa. Should he not back the deal, then we could see hard Brexiteers once again arguing that the assurances are not legally binding, so they're non-existent.
I'm curious to know, what has been the EU's position, especially the past couple of weeks?
We must say that they were reluctant towards seeing the agreement again, opening it up again and renegotiating. They were also frustrated with May's attempts to make last-minute changes, but because she strategically put some pressure on them, she was able to get the EU to talk to her and have a sit-down and renegotiate things. I'm sure the European Union is aware of all the dangers Brexit carries, and is cautioned about not proceeding with an orderly Brexit and the circumstances and the effects on the Eurozone's economy. So it's in their favor also to find an orderly Brexit. But yesterday, the President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, said that this is Britain's last chance.
Throughout the various member states, has there been any alteration or has it been a unified front?
Well, the EU has had a unified front. However, over time, as time passed by, we saw that national interests of individual member states were rising from time to time. Say, for example, though, we had Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, the Irish, which supported that the remaining 27 EU states should have a unified front and should discipline and practically show some unity also over contingency measures. Avoid mini deals with Great Britain. On the other hand, you have Germany, which had more or less raised concerns about the contingency plans, setting a precedent ahead for the future. Also, it urged the EU Commission to touch topics which were not touched until now. I would dare to say that after yesterday's developments, a number of member states had protested that they were not informed ahead of the negotiations of EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker with Theresa May. And I would also like to say that we could see some alterations. However, for the time being, it seems that the EU has a very unified front. The ball is now in the UK's court. Should they accept the deal, fine. However, should they ask for a prolongment of Article 50, then we could see differences of opinion arising between EU member states.
I see that it seems that the Irish backstop has been the sticking point in this whole matter. What are the position of the two sides regarding this issue?
Let's say Brexit is agreed and the UK leaves EU. That leaves Ireland with Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which are two parts of Ireland on different regulations, on different custom unions.
A split country.
Yeah. So they will have to check products moving from one side to the other on the border. This has been opposed strongly by Brexiteers. It says that it risks the integrity they've had until now, and also it ties the UK to the EU regulations and everything, and that's something that it keeps them back. They've strongly opposed this. However, May yesterday announced 3 new documents: a joint instrument, a joint statement, and the unilateral declaration. Very briefly, the joint instrument, basically they have managed to avoid the EU from trapping the UK in a backstop. With the joint statement, they have both committed to developing technologies and other alternative arrangements to sort out the border, or how this border is going to work, and it gives some flexibility, which is positive. And the declaration that nothing prevents the UK of exiting the backstop in case that the EU does not act in good faith. So these are very important updates on a very sensitive matter.
Mm-hmm. Difficult decisions.
Yeah.
We saw the UK Parliament rejecting Theresa May plans before, exactly due to the Irish backstop. What would it take for them to approve it?
Well, actually, it's the time of the truth for the UK Parliament. The UK Parliament had in the past rejected the Irish backstop as a whole. They wanted it to be scrapped and practically replaced by alternate means of surveillance of the transfer of goods and persons across the Irish border. However, such technology does not exist. So that idea was abandoned. Then Theresa May practically suggested the possibility that the Irish backstop exists, however, is of temporary nature, and maybe some legally binding assurances from the EU that over time it would be scrapped were also implied. However, the EU had been quite firm on that issue. Now, the New Deal, as per Theresa May, includes such legally binding measures. So we could say that more or less the UK Parliament has gotten what it asked for. And it's a big question whether the UK Parliament will find the measures included in the New Deal as sufficient. Should it find them sufficient, then we could see the UK Parliament voting for it. On the other hand, should it be rejected, we could see, I wouldn't say tremendous, but substantial pressure being pushed towards Theresa May for the UK Parliament to also examine alternate means. Say, for example, a special kind of relationship of the UK with the EU, Canadian style plus. Once again, it's the moment of truth and it's tonight.
Very interesting. We've seen a lot of things happening, although we answered this question before, but it's a very interesting question I have to get back to because we see so many things happening. We saw the Bank of America jumping ship. We saw the the Honda company jumping ship. What is this whole matter regarding the economy? What do you think is happening there?
All right, just getting into some important financial releases from the UK. The GDP preliminary year-on-year rate has dropped from 1.5 to 1.3, a 0.2 reduction. The CPI inflation rate on a year-to-year has dropped from 2.1 to 1.8, another reduction of 0.2.
But that puts you in trouble, isn't it?
That is somewhat negative, but the retail sales on a yearly basis have increased from 3.1 to 4.2.
Light in the tunnel.
So we have mixed financial data. There's a lot of potential risk and uncertainty, which is scaring a lot of businesses and creates a lot of
uncertainties.
Negative impact or negative forecasts. However, an interesting report states that in 2018, startup companies in the UK created 1 million jobs. Okay. However, as we enter 2019 and we're getting closer to Brexit, there were fears that a lot of these companies will not be opening in the UK. And there were also fears that a lot of existing companies would downgrade or they will reduce their operations, which will also reduce jobs.
Yes.
Unemployment is a very strong indicator of a healthy economy, and so there's a potential. There was a potential, but as Peter stated, a game changer. The game changer updates Theresa May has brought forward could have reduced the possibilities for this scenario to take place.
I also think it might make it, if it goes through, that it's going to make things a little bit difficult for them to compete as well. The new companies, I mean, or the existing one, for example.
Well, if they find an agreement, that doesn't hold the businesses back.
No?
No.
Very good information. How has the pound been reacting in the past year, Peter?
Let's see the charts here.
Okay.
Now we have prepared 3 charts. It's the Euro GBP, JPY, and cable. They will be rotating on your screen the whole time. I would dare to say that we see trends happening here. Whenever we have news which support the idea of an orderly Brexit or an agreed Brexit, then we can see the pound strengthening. It would be indicative, for example, in cable, when we had the announcement of a possible delay of Brexit, the pound surged and cable rose. The same happened yesterday, as Angelos has mentioned it at the start, where cable had a 320 around pips rise. When the revised deal was announced by Theresa May and the EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. In general, I would dare to say that whenever we have news pointing towards an orderly Brexit, the pound strengthens, while the contrary, whenever we have news showing or increasing the possibility of a disorderly Brexit, a hard Brexit, the pound weakens.
I see. Very, very interesting. And how's the pound expecting to react in this case scenario?
We have an array of outcomes still possible. First, we start with a delay. A delay could be modestly good for the pound as it lays the ground for more discussion and a potential better agreement. Then we have the best case scenario, which is a last minute deal, and that is the best case scenario for the pound. We could see the pound getting strong support in this case. The worst case scenario is a no deal Brexit. We could see the pound getting hit and could drop to much lower levels than currently. Fourth scenario is a snap election. In our opinion, creates uncertainty and could modestly be negative for the pound. And the fifth scenario is another referendum, which has the possibility of the UK not heading for a Brexit, and it could be positive for the pound remaining within the EU. So it's 5 scenarios, 20% each possibility.
Let's continue with the technicals. Are there any important level to take notice of?
Well, we would like to concentrate more on cable, but there are other pairs available. We saw cable yesterday breaking consecutively all the resistance lines and landing above the now 1.3175 support line. Now, should this trend continue, and given yesterday's volatility, we could see the pair breaking also the 1.3265, maybe even the 1.3350, aiming for the 1.3450. All of those resistance levels. In extreme case scenarios, we could see the pair also breaking the 1.35 and aiming for higher grounds. Now, should there be bad news for the pound, we could see the pair dropping and breaking most probably the 1.3175, maybe the 1.3070, aiming for the 1.2990. There's no actual saying how wide the drop could be. The volatility is high depending on the news. It could go either direction. And if a trader is focused and chooses the correct direction for each pair, he could book substantial profits here. So it's a good chance, but there's risk, there's substantial risk.
High volatility.
Yeah. It's a good chance to book some profits.
Of course, everything there's risk. Any suggestion to traders wanting to trade the pound for Brexit, you think, Andrew?
Now, for people that are following the pound, I would advise to have an open mind on the pound and to not be fixed on the cable or Euro GBP, to have an open mind for GBP JPY also, or GBP AUD. This can give you a variety of choices and different opportunities. Also, Brexit is a great opportunity for a trader which understands where the subject is heading, like has a strong opinion of where Brexit is heading, and he's already in the market, or he's planning to be in the market after the vote tonight, and has an idea of where Brexit is heading and can understand well fundamentals, and has an opinion on where the pound is heading. So there's like Peter said, there's a very good chance for people to make profits on the event, or after the event, or in the preceding days.
Have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
I would agree with Angelos. Look, there's going to be a turbulence of emotions. It's going to be a roller coaster, most probably. A trader should be careful, practically not to get dominated by fear or greed. On the contrary, have his emotions working for him. And most importantly is what Angelos has mentioned before. Have a plan. Understand the fundamentals between the pair you have chosen. Set an entry point. What direction the pair is going to go is probably an exit point. Set your stop loss. Take profit levels. Care should be taken as volatility could be very high.
I would like to add that with the pound, you have to be patient, especially with the pound. Like yesterday, everything seemed okay. The pound was dropping, and once Theresa May was seen going to Strasbourg, pound just bounced upward. And so you have to be patient with your trades. You're not going to be right on the spot exactly when you open the trade. You have to be patient with your trades to give them time to operate and move in direction they should. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But some trades need patience in order to work.
Yeah. It will be very interesting to see how the issue will evolve and definitely volatility for the pound could rise. Before we end the session, we'd like to give an opportunity to viewers to ask some questions. If there's anyone out there who has any question, now it's time to go to live chat and ask the question, and we will answer it. We'll give you a couple of minutes to decide. Anything else we'd like to talk about while we wait for the chat?
It's quite interesting also that we had some preliminary reactions from hard Brexiteers rejecting, while others at the same time were thinking things over. There were rumors in the corridors of the UK Parliament that the Conservative Party had put a lot of pressure on hard Brexiteers and the DUP. It's a very ambiguous outcome. What's going to happen?
I believe that during Brexit, it was very hard to get both sides to be more flexible with what they want from the deal, but now we've seen more flexibility and negotiations, and so I believe that we're closer to a more positive outcome than we were yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also quite interesting how high the pound will actually go. Will the pound actually hit the pre-referendum levels, especially cable?
Yes.
Will it hit above 1.40 or won't? Because it's understandable that in the past 2 years, uncertainty created a substantial damage to the UK economy. Also, it's interesting to note that it's not only the pound which has to lose. Should there be a negative outcome, the euro could also be negatively affected. However, at a smaller pace, but still, it could be negatively affected.
I see. Well, it doesn't seem like we have any takers on the questions. And so, do you think that there might be a possibility that they might have a new referendum, a new vote, and actually allow people to vote on this? What do you think the outcome might be?
Possible, it's possible, of course it's possible.
Yes.
The question is whether they will actually give the UK people the chance to have a second opinion on that.
You know why, don't you? Hell no, we don't go. That's what I'm thinking.
It also depends on how many people are with Theresa May or not, because she's done everything she's done the best she could have ever done.
Yeah.
Now it's up to her, people siding with her or siding against her.
And also, people are exercising substantial pressure from the constituents' parliament.
Yeah.
And that's also not negligible. I think there has been a considerable shift, or at least that's what opinion polls are showing.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Gentlemen, our job is to educate the traders on behalf of IronFX. We here provide an in-depth analysis to boost the trading of our traders. We will be providing a number of live seminars and webinars on various topics as well as we normally do. For more information and trading ideas, you can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, circle us on Google. This is Theresa May, Peter Yosef, and Angelo Zidis, wishing you solid trading from IronFX, and wish you a good afternoon.